An extremely heavy rain fell on the scene of a zombie apocalypse. In a small, isolated wooden house, a group of people, students, took shelter. Suddenly, someone knocked desperately on the door. "I'm Jang. Please open up. They're all gathering and coming this way. Save me, let me in." The protagonist's colleagues pressed against the door with their bodies to prevent the zombies from entering. One of them asked amidst the panic, "What are we going to do? Are we going to let him in? But what if he's infected?" The class representative, a blonde girl, shouted, asserting her moral authority. "Let him in! Jong is our classmate. We can't abandon him. Quick, let him in!" One of the boys holding the door confronted her. "You're kidding, right? The zombies are all out there. Do you want us all to be killed here? Jong has definitely already been bitten by zombies. We can't let him in." She insisted. "I'm the class representative. I won't abandon any of my classmates. Let him in. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility." She tried to justify herself. Jang can still talk and shout, which proves he hasn't been infected yet. You can still help him, but you want to let him die? Don't you feel guilty? In their previous life, the group reached an agreement. They decided to open and close the door quickly. As soon as they opened the door, the worst happened. Jang entered, and he was indeed infected. The group discovered that the zombies had the ability to speak. Jang lunged at the protagonist and bit him, infecting him as well. The bite brought with it a memory collapse and a series of flashbacks and sensations of déjà vu. In one of the flashbacks, he saw a man with a robotic body, the mechanic, in front of him saying, "Do you know what you're doing? You only need to do two things: save yourself and get revenge." He saw himself on a stretcher with the modified body. The protagonist then returned to reality, seconds before the fatal outcome of his previous life, with the class representative still shouting, "Quick, let him in! I'm the class representative. I won't abandon any classmate." With his memories restored, the protagonist thought, "She's so young now. I'll never forget this day. I'm finally back." The mechanic succeeded. "I wanted to go back and change everything." He intervened, looking coldly at the class representative, using his knowledge of the future to challenge her decision. "Hey, class representative, that Jang outside might have been infected by a zombie hours ago. If we let him in, can you really handle the consequences?" The class representative confronted him, denying the reality. "Did you personally see him get bitten?" And reaffirming her position. "I am the class representative. If anything happens, I will be responsible for it." The protagonist, Bin, cunningly challenged the class representative. "So, could you please open the door yourself?" His classmates were startled. The class representative, Lee Hyo-chi, was indignant. "Are you still a man? I'm a girl, but you're stopping me from opening it? Fine then, I'll go ahead and open it." Bin verbally attacked her, exposing her hypocrisy. "Why can't I ask you to open it? All you do is yell, let others do all your chores and tasks, and then take all the credit. You're just a hypocritical woman." Hyo-chi, annoyed, pounded her chest and accepted the challenge. "I'll do this job. I've never felt fear before, so leave it to me. You bunch of cowards, get out of here." She pushed her colleagues aside and grabbed the doorknob. Before she could even open it, a pressure surged from outside. It was Jang, and he was indeed infected, just as Bin had predicted. The door was knocked down. Her colleagues ran in panic at the sight of the zombie. In desperation, Lee Hyo-chi's true nature was revealed. She grabbed one of her classmates and used him as a human shield. The classmate shouted, "Class representative, what do you think you're doing? Let me go immediately." Bin, acting like a pragmatic villain, changed the scenario and executed his revenge. He threw the cowardly Lee Hyo-chi directly into the arms of the zombie Jang. Jang embraced her, ready to devour and infect her. In a moment of quick thinking, Bin grabbed a screwdriver, a large mechanical object, and launched it with surgical precision into the zombie's head, instantly eliminating it. Jang's body and the representative fell together to the ground in the rain. Hyo-chi, terrified, pleaded, "Bin, please save me!" Bin looked at her, fallen, and uttered his cold sentence. "Lee Hyo-chi, the White Lotus, you have pursued me my entire past life. Today, it is your turn to be pursued." While the representative screamed for help outside, Hee-bin grabbed the door and locked it, forgetting about it. He addressed his colleagues. "What are you waiting for? Quick, block this door." The colleagues, terrified and now following Hee-bin's order, rushed forward with ladders, cabinets, and heavy tools, reinforcing the door. The representative began banging on the door, begging for mercy and clemency. "I am your class representative. How can you treat me like this?" she said, but they didn't help her. Lee Hyo-chi's voice fell silent, raising the question. Was she infected? Or did she run away? At that moment, one of the secondary classmates looked at the protagonist and said, "I never expected this. Hee-bin. He expelled the class representative. He even killed the zombie too. He's very scary. He's normally kind because it seems like he's become a different person." The classmates were extremely frightened, and the girls were trembling. The protagonist looked at them and asked, "Are you afraid of me?" Matthias, one of his classmates, said to Hee-bin, "Thank you. I was dragged along by the class representative. If it weren't for you, I would have died. Thank you so much, protagonist. The class representative deserves to die. She almost made us all die with her. And luckily Hee-bin reacted quickly, otherwise we would be in a much worse situation. Yeah, the class representative is really very naive." Well, having said that, the protagonist, who was extremely frightening, said, "It's good that you're not afraid. Open the door and let them out." Matthias and his friends asked, "But what did you actually say? To leave?" And the protagonist then exclaimed, "Yeah, I just thought of that. Expelling the class representative. That wasn't a good thing to do. So I want to go out and see how she's doing." His colleagues tried to stop him. "Hee-bin, stop messing around. There are already zombies outside." But he didn't care and yelled at them, telling them to get out of the way. Then he opened the door and shamelessly went outside with his zombie-killing tool. The protagonist then thought, the class representative and the zombie disappeared. He noticed, the sun came out and the zombies all went away too. But what happened? While the protagonist was outside sunbathing, his classmates shouted from inside the house, ordering, "Quick, block the door! Don't let that crazy guy in again. He's dangerous and scary. He expelled the class representative, and now he..." We let them stay. Who knows? Maybe he'll expel us too. Looking at his expression, they concluded, he might have been a murderer in the past, his classmates said. The protagonist was walking outside as if nothing had happened. Matthias and his friends were talking through the window. Hee-bin doesn't seem to be planning on coming back. Where does this crazy guy want to go? The protagonist was walking ahead of a zombie. Has he gone mad? His classmates wondered. The protagonist, extremely overpowered, swooped in with a sinister aura, his tool in hand, mocking the zombie. With brutal speed, he grabbed his weapon and charged at the zombie. His classmates were stunned, trying to understand what was happening. At that moment, when we look, he eliminates the zombie without even blinking, and his classmates are left extremely frightened. Upon defeating that zombie, the protagonist retrieved a green sphere from inside its skull. It was an energy stone. He stated, "The origin of the apocalypse. It's a much-needed resource for apocalypse mechanics." Without respite, another extremely frightening zombie appeared behind him. He realized instantly. The good thing is that they aren't that fast. They have a lot of strength, but it's possible to fight them off. He fought that zombie too. His classmates, looking out the window, said, "But what the hell is going on? He took the initiative to kill zombies? You said his personality suddenly changed. I remember he's a coward. How could he change his personality like that? Could he have been acting this whole time? He just kicked out the class representative a little while ago. I never expected him to be this kind of person," they said, sobbing as they tried to understand. They wondered, since he's so strong, let's let him go back and help kill zombies. But others countered, saying that wasn't the best option. Because he's crazy. They remembered they were out of food and needed to get out of there, as they were trapped and starving. As they were arguing, the protagonist arrived with a sinister look, banging and breaking the window with his tool, a tire iron. Colleagues, why are you here? Get out now and kill some zombies. It's very exciting. While he was at the window, talking, a zombie appeared behind him. He kicked the zombie, grabbed his tool, and delivered blows to its face, causing the zombie to fall dead to the ground. He said, "These black liquid stains are quite disgusting. I don't know if I'll get infected. Originally, I still thought we could travel together, but I might turn into a zombie. It's best if we forget about that. I don't plan on hurting you. I hope we can all survive. See you next time." He simply walked away, as if nothing had happened. He began climbing the stairs of several buildings in the city, which was teeming with zombies. He stated, "This is the beginning of humanity's apocalypse. A zombie apocalypse. A zombie virus that has spread throughout the world. 50% of the total population has been infected. The economy, politics, everything has collapsed. The number of zombies has increased dramatically each day. Humans live in fear and despair, fighting for survival, space, food, and resources, leaving the world even more chaotic. Dark Ages. This was the zombie research that Professor Zhang Yang named. The protagonist thought, the class representative Li Hyo-chi caused me to be bitten by a zombie. I only survived because I cut off my own arm. For 50 years, I suffered from hunger, torture, and so on, until I met the mechanic. He used remnants of his power to send me back to the past, to the beginning of the apocalypse, before he died. And that's why he regained his memories now." The protagonist continued walking as if nothing had happened. Some people who were trapped in buildings taking shelter peered through the cracks and said, "Is he even human? Why is he talking like that? Isn't he afraid of dying? His food must have run out. He's gone mad after starving," they said, looking through the cracks. "Should we invite him inside? It's too dangerous out there." Heebin continued walking down the street, ignoring the people in the building who called him an idiot. He passed the zombies silently, with a boldness that even the zombies seemed to disbelieve. When his guard was down, the zombies advanced. The boys who were looking through the gaps exclaimed, "The zombies are advancing on him." One of them, however, scoffed, "Who told him to go out looking for food at a time like this? What an idiot." But the protagonist surprised everyone. He used the tactic of pretending not to know anything and counterattacked that zombie with a brutal blow to the face, eliminating it instantly. He didn't stop. He seemed like a machine. "He's extremely strong and aggressive," said the neighbors who were hiding. In another building, a woman was hiding and said, "Damn you, I'm going to kill you sooner or later, just you wait." Heebin continued striking at the zombies, but the more he eliminated, the more came at him. He was getting annoyed because it was boring and thought, the noise attracted too many of them here. The protagonist moved forward to take cover, knocking on a door and pleading to be let in. "I'm injured and there are so many zombies after me. Open the door, let me in." The old man who was smoking a cigarette inside said, "He's poking a beehive. What an idiot to let that boy in. He's completely devoid of intelligence." But another boy said, "I can't see it that way." The market door wouldn't open. Another zombie appeared, and the protagonist counterattacked it with his tool, striking others and more. At one point, one of the boys quickly opened the door and let the protagonist in, closing it again and leaving the zombies outside. There were several people inside. We see that a gang was also hiding in a cellar. One of them was saying, "That kid can kill zombies, Brother Centipede. That student killed 5. No, actually he killed 6 zombies all by himself. And he even went into the convenience store across the street." The leader of that gang, Centipede, started laughing, saying it was interesting. "It seems those zombies aren't as strong as I thought, and he's simply powerful." Centipede, with several women around him exuding lust, concluded, "If that student can do it, we can too." We then returned to the protagonist, who advanced into the aisle of the convenience store. He tried to approach a girl who was there, but she hid from him. The protagonist began to feign intense pain, saying that his wound was reopening and he needed help and bandages immediately. In reality, it was all an act. When the girl approached him, the protagonist grabbed her wrist and said, "Don't worry. Big Brother won't hurt you. Please hand me the door remote now because I need it urgently." He then took the remote from the girl's hand and she ran away from him. The protagonist scolded her, calling her an idiot. Because he said he was hurt and you believed him. You're an idiot. It's very easy to fool you, the protagonist said, showing that she shouldn't trust anyone, because zombies can behave like humans and talk. The scene cuts to a flashback of the protagonist's past life. He entered the same convenience store. He was missing his arm, which he had torn off himself to stop the zombie bite from spreading. He was in a lot of pain, and this little girl, the store owner, had helped him. She bandaged him, cared for him, stopped the bleeding, and said, "It's very dangerous out there. My father also told me to stay in the store. You can lie down and rest here. First, I'll bring you something to eat." In his past life, she had been very kind to him and cared for his wounds. The protagonist thought, she was the only one who opened the door for me. If she hadn't let me in, I would have died of hemorrhage or been devoured by zombies. At this point in the flashback, the protagonist hears a voice coming from downstairs in her father's shop. It was those tough, extremely strong men thanking the little girl for letting them in, but they were bad people. The girl asks, "Didn't you tell us you were about to starve to death?" And that gangster says, "Thank you for opening the door and letting us in. All the food in your shop belongs to us now," the evil man said, grabbing her chin. He spoke with a sarcastic air. "We saw him and used him as bait to lure the zombies away. Now it's just us here. Nobody will bother us. All your food is ours." The protagonist, who was on the first floor of the shop, simply couldn't do anything. Those gangsters, those sinister and evil men, did horrible things to her, and the protagonist couldn't do anything. Cut to the scene. He was talking in his thoughts, returning to reality. "This time I need to save her, because she's a very special person. First, he needs to teach her, so she understands how dark this apocalyptic world is, even if she treats me like a bad and evil man." The protagonist was taking a shower in the store. The girl was knocking on the door asking how he was, but he yelled at her saying, "Why are you knocking? Don't bother me while I'm showering." She said, "I saw your clothes were dirty, so I brought a fresh set." And the protagonist said, "Leave the clothes outside and get out." The protagonist, in fact, wants what's best for her. Because she has such a weak personality, so gentle, how can she not survive in this apocalyptic world? He thought, "But it's so good to take a bath. I think it's been a long time since I've had a bath like this." He knew that with the increase in zombies, more and more water sources would become polluted. In a few days, this place will probably have its water supply cut off. The good thing about him being sheltered there is that this place has plenty of food and water stored, but he needs to equip himself with weapons. He even boasts about his body in the mirror, saying that he looks youthful and young, perfect for fighting, and he needs more training. That said, he then picks up the change of clothes the girl left for him, and he yells at her again, terrifying her. Once again, it's for her own good, because she needs to be strong. That said, the gangsters were gathered in front of the convenience store. Their boss spoke. "This apartment has alcohol and food, but it won't last long. We need to create a survival base to deal with the apocalypse, so let's go out, kill zombies, and take the first step. Rob the convenience store across the street and make sure we have a good, sufficient food supply." He pointed to the store and commented that there must possibly be someone there, with a sarcastic look on his face. He ordered, "Brothers, go there and kill the zombies. Take all the food they have there." And they went on the attack. While they were on this mission, the girl, Sakura, that's her name, was eating some sweets. The protagonist, Hebin, is the only one who is on her side and wants what's best for her. The protagonist says, "You stupid brat, get out of here. I have a few things to ask you." "Well, do you live here alone? Where is your family?" he asked. And then the girl said to the protagonist, "My father went out to stockpile supplies. He never came back." And the protagonist even speaks, shouting at her, "You're a little stupid. How dare you let me in when you're alone at home? Aren't you afraid of human beings?" The protagonist said this to her, but she has a very good heart and says, "But you said you were hurt. I saw that your body was covered in blood." The protagonist continues exclaiming, "Didn't you see the things that were chasing me? Don't you know what's happening out there? The protagonist says, a naturally weak and naive personality like yours will ultimately only be a burden to me. And he even thought, why don't I get rid of you now and save myself the trouble? And the protagonist even says, but being alone is quite boring without anyone to serve me. The protagonist then empirically threatens her, making it clear that she needs to help him and not hinder him, and without complaining anymore because they need to survive. Cut to a scene in front of the convenience store, where we see a large number of zombies. The bullies are trying to confront them, but one of them is already grabbed by the ear and infected, causing the others to be afraid to advance. What's going on? Why did these zombies suddenly become so ferocious? Said one of the skinny brown-haired bullies. Could these zombies be different from the ones those students killed? But their boss doesn't tolerate weakness and orders them to stop talking, ordering them to attack. Kill them now, or we'll all have to die. We'll all have to be eliminated here. Well, at that moment he urges one of his henchmen to advance towards the zombies, but then he takes him hostage and they simply can't advance, forcing them to retreat in front of the zombies. We return to the convenience store, and Sakura brings the instant noodles for our protagonist to eat. The protagonist continues to treat her badly. The protagonist then devours the noodles voraciously because he was very hungry. He even wonders why it's so noisy outside. And then, when he goes to assess the situation from the first-floor window, he sees those thugs outside, and their boss is hanging out the window begging the protagonist for help, telling him to help now, and even threatening him. At that moment, the protagonist grabs a thermos and heads towards the villain, the gangster Arlong, the gang leader. He pours hot water on his hand. The protagonist says, "You want to eliminate me? Then I won't give you that chance. I'll eliminate you first." Just as the protagonist was about to pull his hand away from the window, causing him to fall instantly, Sakura grabs his arm and pleads for the gang leader's life. "Please, let him in, he's hurt." The protagonist argues, "Leave me alone, you stupid girl. Do you even know what people out there are like? Do you know his character?" And she says, "No, but my father told me not to hurt others." The protagonist retorts, "Stop being so stupid and naive. If you let him in, he might hurt you." We then see Arlong smile and say with a saintly expression, No, I'm definitely not going to do anything. I was just hungry, so I ran to find food. Then I got trapped by the zombies and ended up climbing all the way here. It's already surrounded by zombies outside. I can't get out. Please, let me stay here. I'll leave when the zombies dissipate and leave." The protagonist even thinks, "I should have kicked him out sooner to feed those zombies. Now that this brat is here, it's hard to eliminate him." At that moment, the protagonist sees a stiletto on the table. But when Arlong enters the room, the gang leader with a scorpion hanging from his neck says, "Wherever I am, it will all be my territory. Anyone who dares to resist will have to be eliminated," surprising Sakura with his attitude. After all, he seemed like a good person, but then she discovers that he is not. He is a very bad person. Continuing on, at that moment, the street begins to fill with zombies outside. Cut to the scene and we go to their neighbors, the other survivors who are also taking shelter. They're saying, "The zombies are breaking down the door. This place can't hold them for much longer. What are we going to do? It's all Centipede Brother's fault. If he hadn't made everyone leave with him, we could have been here for over a month." And yes, his name is Centipede Arlong, the name of the gang leader. They're very scared. Centipede Brother. After we were separated by the zombies, I don't know where he went. And they even say they saw him climb the convenience store. Could he be dead? At that moment, while they are arguing, the zombies begin to bang on the door more forcefully, and they then ask the girls from Brother Centipede for help to close the door. We then return to the scene where Arlong the Centipede jumped out the window, and our protagonist, Bin, is assessing the situation as quickly as possible. At that moment, Brother Centipede Arlong begins to speak inappropriately and addresses Sakura. "I really want to train you. If you would serve me as a slave, I will spare your life." He then turns his attention to the protagonist and says, "You bastard, how dare you use hot water to burn me? You must be tired of living. Using you to feed the zombies isn't a bad choice, but I need a way to make you die a more painful death. I'll have to think of the best torture for you." Arlong even described methods of torture, but this didn't intimidate the protagonist in the slightest. At that moment, the protagonist picked up a stiletto in his hand. Sakura even tries to argue, saying that her family owns the convenience store and that the first floor has enough food for everyone. There are strips, spicy food, chocolates, string cookies, biscuits, and much more, which made Arlong the centipede very angry. Just as Arlong the centipede lunges to fight Sakura, the protagonist grabs a stiletto and cuts off Arlong's fingers, leaving him without the fingers on his left hand. In reaction, Arlong throws the protagonist to the ground. Arlong the centipede tells the protagonist, "After all these years, you're the only one who's managed to make me this angry. This very angry. You're going to pay for this." The protagonist even comments that his rib feels like it was broken by his blow. He really loses in terms of physical advantage, but he wins in strategy. Arlong the centipede then asks the protagonist, "Before I eliminate you, how do you manage to kill zombies so easily? Because we can't kill them when we can kill humans so easily." The protagonist teases the villain, saying, "You know what? Call me Grandpa and I'll tell you." At that moment, the centipede Arlong begins to stomp on the protagonist. The protagonist thinks, "I wanted to let this little girl learn her lesson from this experience, but the price I'm paying is too high." He then gives in to the question and says he will answer. The protagonist, Bin, is then lifted by his shirt by the centipede Arlong. Arlong throws him with brutal force and counterattacks. But at that moment, as he was being struck, Sakura grabs the dagger and throws it at the villain's shoulder, helping our beloved protagonist. The centipede Arlong feels the dagger piercing his body and becomes very angry, throwing our dear Sakura away and threatening her. But at that moment, as she turned her back, the protagonist grabbed a pipe and struck Arlong in the neck, causing him to fall to the ground, motionless and gasping for air. Sakura, trembling, thought that villain was dead. The protagonist touched her shoulder, saying, "Girl, it's okay. Dealing with that kind of evil bastard, you only did what you had to do." And then she says, "But I wanted to save him because he was like that when he came in." Didn't people say that this world has many more good people than bad people? She then realizes, he didn't die. Stop talking nonsense and go take a bath. Wash that blood off your body. At that moment, while he lay motionless on the ground, the girl Sakura said, "Then save him." The protagonist gets angry with her and throws her out of the room, saying that he had never seen anyone as stupid as her. "She really irritates me," the protagonist said. The protagonist grabs Arlong the centipede and throws it out the window, causing it to be devoured by zombies. The protagonist looks out the window and sees someone climbing a piece of iron and shouts to the man hanging from the pole, "Hey, is anyone else alive?" The man replies that no one is. He says they were blocking the door, but someone let go, and the zombies got in and everyone was bitten. He even begs the protagonist for help, asking if he can save him and let him come to his side. The protagonist says he can't, and the protagonist warns, "If you don't want to end up like that Arlong centipede down there, I'm telling you now to run away fast and not come to our side." One of Arlong the centipede's henchmen jumps off a balcony and manages to land on it. The protagonist is somewhat indignant because they should all be eliminated. After all, they are bad people who wronged him and his friend Sakura in a past life. At this moment, we see the street littered with zombies. When the protagonist opens the bedroom door, Sakura is there alone, crouching and scared. The protagonist says, "Didn't I tell you to take a shower? Why are you still here?" Sakura asks, "Is he all right?" Because she saw the trail of blood coming out the window. The protagonist says, "Don't stare. He's on the first floor now." And she even asks if he escaped. But the protagonist replies, "In this situation, how could he escape? Unless he's a god," he says with a sarcastic smile on his face. And then she would be devastated, wondering why he did it. And she even says, even if he's a bad guy, there's a chance he can turn the page and become a good guy. The protagonist once again gets annoyed with her, calling her an idiot and asking if she hasn't read that children's bedtime story about the farmer and the snake. He explains, "He's a bad guy, a gangster. If you save him, he'll definitely turn against you." And yes, it's the farmer and the snake, a fable about a farmer who helps a snake and then gets bitten by it. And he even said, "This is the real world, girl, wake up, get up, I'm just like him. We need to do bad things to survive in this apocalyptic world. It's the apocalypse now, a world full of danger. Values and morals have been lost in this moment," he said. "Well, it's a waste of time talking to an idiot like you. I just took a shower, now I'll have to take another one." He adds, "My bones still ache." At that moment, Sakura runs down the stairs after him and faints in his arms, deeply affecting him. He thinks, is she hurt after being beaten up by that bully gangster? I don't see any injuries, is she all right? Or is it a fever? Yes, there must be medicine somewhere here. She's quite ill. She's been very weak since the beginning, as if she's been sick, the protagonist says. He remembers that she's been like this for a long time. He found a medicine box and, while rummaging through the contents, saw Sakura's diary detailing a treatment she's undergoing. She's proud of not having felt pain and wants to be a good person in the future. Well, this is a disease record, and she's literally sick. She has leukemia. He then looks at her skin and notices a significant blood loss. The protagonist thinks, so that's why you want to save people no matter what, right, girl? But that kindness and warmth in those worlds no longer exist, he said, looking at Sakura passed out on the bed. The protagonist then remembers that he had some energy capsules, the green spheres he took from the zombies, and even thinks about giving them to her, but he doesn't know if it will be beneficial. Dawn breaks, and we see the zombies outside gazing at the sunrise, and the protagonist wakes up. The protagonist is once again happy for Sakura, but he doesn't show it. He wants to seem like that tough uncle so she can learn to navigate life. He speaks to her, instructing her to prepare breakfast for him, and even says, "Go pack some things and get ready. We're going out to meet your father." This makes Sakura extremely happy. She even asks, "Protagonist, are you saying we're going to find my father?" He says, "Yes. Didn't you say your father went out to exchange food and drink? I feel this place isn't safe." "I should hand you over to your father," the protagonist said. She even tries to argue back, saying that the order was for her to stay in the store and that she should wait, and that he told her to lock the door. The protagonist asks, "How many days has it been since her father left?" "It's been 3 days. The protagonist asks, "So how long does it usually take to stock up on food?" "Around midday." "So it's been 2.5 days since he last showed up. So use your pig brain. What happened to your father that he still hasn't returned after all this time?" The protagonist was rude to her, but she doesn't believe anything bad could have happened, and she says that 3 days ago he called her saying that everything was fine, that he would be back soon. But that was 3 days ago, which leaves doubts. He may have been infected by zombies or gotten trapped somewhere waiting to be rescued, the protagonist said. "Don't you think we should save him?" She's still somewhat reluctant. But the protagonist yells at her again, loses his patience, and tells her to stop being naive. The protagonist even says, "I'm not asking for your opinion. I could just leave you here and go away, but I don't want you to have a bad time in life. I'm going to take you to your father, and that's my way of paying you back, so don't be stubborn. Hurry up and get things together quickly." At that moment, we see that the outside area is extremely crowded with zombies, and, to our surprise, an elite vehicle suddenly arrives at the scene and appears to be from the army. The protagonist is stocking up on food and things to leave, and he even gets annoyed with her again. The protagonist is identifying himself as possibly her uncle or father, and asks why she was wearing those cute clothes, since they aren't going on a trip. "Well, never mind. Take everything you need, instant noodles, beans, meat, supplements, everything, and they even eat before leaving." He-bin thought, "I remember there are some cars on the road. Hopefully I can find one that's working," the protagonist said. "Then we'll call this little girl to get in the car. Hopefully she won't do anything stupid and won't get in my way, because we could die because of her stupidity." But at that moment, while they were talking, the car simply drives into the convenience store, crashing into it without mercy. The protagonist even thinks it's an earthquake. But it's actually a car that has crashed into the place, with zombies under its tires. The protagonist then lies face down on top of it so that nothing hits him. We then see a chubby guy get out of the car, a fat individual with the appearance of someone from the army. But the protagonist doesn't give up. As the guy enters the convenience store, the protagonist pulls out his box cutter and threatens him, forcing him outside. He then steals some food and runs away. We jump ahead a bit. The chubby guy walks into the convenience store and grabs some food. He seems to be heavily armed. That said, he's happy because he has chips, cookies, everything he likes. The city's supplies were all stolen, so risking coming to a more deserted city was worth it, the chubby guy said. But at that moment, while he was stealing the food, the protagonist threatened him with a stiletto to his neck, and the protagonist said, "The last insect that got into this convenience store was thrown out on the street as decoration. I don't mind having other decorations either." At that moment, when the protagonist was threatening the fat army guy named Sakamoto, he is distracted by some food that he throws in the protagonist's face, causing him to get away from the protagonist, and he gets into the car. At that moment, the protagonist goes after him and enters through the passenger door, with his stiletto in hand, threatening the fat guy. As he was about to eliminate the chubby, fat Sakamoto, the convenience store girl shouted, "Sakura! He just destroyed my store! If he dies now, no one will compensate us for the damage he just caused." And then the protagonist takes advantage of the situation, and instead of getting angry, he simply says, "Your car isn't bad. Let's use it to pay for the damage you caused. Great, we needed a driver anyway." At that moment, Sakamoto, the bald, fat guy driving the car, says, "Yeah, brother, sorry, I was wrong. I only smashed your door because I was too hungry. I didn't know you guys were inside." At that moment, Sakura grabs the bag of food, which is extremely heavy, but the zombies are coming at a very fast pace. Sakamoto even says, "I just killed some because more are coming. There are so many zombies here." Having said that, at the last second, Sakura gets into the car and the zombies start rocking it, but Sakamoto slams his foot on the accelerator and speeds away. We see that this bald guy is extremely insane. He drives too fast, and the protagonist even argues with him, calling him crazy and telling him to drive properly, otherwise he'll suffer the consequences. And Sakamoto says, "I need to eliminate the zombies first before going, because the path needs to be clearer, and you didn't tell me where you're going." The protagonist, Hee-bin, asks Sakura for the address and location of the place where her father stored resources, and she says, "Dad stocks up on supplies at the supermarket far from here. That's also where he last called." And Sakamoto says, "Well, I know that supermarket. It's not that far, but it's usually very crowded. It's definitely full of zombies." The protagonist tells him to shut up, ordering him to obey, because he's not in a position to give orders. Sakamoto even asks, "On the way, if I get bored, I can turn on the radio. Can we listen to music?" And the protagonist says it's too noisy. He doesn't want to listen to any music. Sakamoto, trying to keep the joke going, says, "Well, then we can sing, right?" And the protagonist tells him to shut up. Cut to the next scene. We continue on our way. That said, there are some zombies ahead, and Sakamoto takes pleasure in eliminating them while eating candy. The protagonist says, "Can you be quiet? I'm trying to sleep. Or do you want to eliminate us all?" And Sakamoto, who seems to be a sociopath, replies, "I'm incredibly bored. You won't let me listen to music, at least let me have some fun." And he says, "Don't worry. This vehicle is very sturdy. It can easily run over a zombie." The protagonist gets very angry with him, and the two seem like those brothers who fight a lot. "I told you to stop. You better stop. Do you understand?" At that moment, Hee-bin is surprised. "I asked you to stop, but not to stop driving." That being said, the car is out of gas, the car ran out of fuel, and they start arguing, but actually it's because Sakamoto didn't see any checkpoints along the way. The protagonist says, "Go out and lure the zombies away." Sakamoto, however, wants to eat a lot before his death because he really enjoys eating. At that moment, a zombie appears at the window, scaring Sakura. That said, the protagonist says, "If things continue like this, even if the car isn't destroyed, we're going to die trapped here." The protagonist then sees an opportunity to shine on screen. He grabs a dagger and steps outside the car. He mercilessly tears apart a zombie and continues advancing with his sword in hand. For these initial zombies, this normal sword is more than enough, the protagonist says as he fights them relentlessly. This made Sakamoto extremely uneasy, thinking, but how is this guy so strong? And how can he kill zombies so easily? The protagonist even yells at him, ordering him to get out of the car. Get out, Sakamoto! Come fight too! If you stay there, you'll die sooner or later, unless you do what I say. And the protagonist will be the captain in this fight against the zombies. Outside, I saw that there were several other cars. If we're lucky, some vehicles should have some fuel. I'll kill the zombies at the entrance. Then you step on the gas and kill the rest. You know how to put gas in, right? You talked non-stop the whole way, you must know a lot about cars. And he tells Sakura to wait for them inside the car. Sakamoto even tries to argue, saying that he's not mentally ready. The protagonist says, just prepare some bottles. Then Sakamoto sees our protagonist fighting and says, He-bin is very scary. And he thinks, I want to ally myself with this guy because he'll be very useful to me. At that moment, Sakamoto says, Hey brother, look here. The protagonist looks at him and Sakamoto states, Actually, I suddenly remembered that the back of the vehicle has gas tanks and I need to use them. At that moment, the protagonist finishes eliminating the other zombie and looks at his face with a Machiavellian gaze which says, What did you say? Sakamoto tries to apologize, saying, Please calm down, I was shocked. So I forgot about it. And he says he's going to put the gasoline in now. The protagonist interrupts his train of thought and says, No, put it on later. I need you to help me collect something first. Go collect this. These pearls are hidden inside the zombies' brains. Help me find them. And he explains that these pearls provide energy. He then strikes the zombie in the skull and retrieves the pearl from its center. Sakamoto even gets scared, saying, No, that's disgusting. And the protagonist argues with him again. The two seem like brothers who fight a lot. The protagonist even tells him to hurry up, but remembers that Sakamoto's sword is with him. The protagonist tells Sakamoto to use his mouth, which is very funny. The protagonist threatens Sakamoto in every possible way. Start now, or I'll eliminate you. If you dare to relax, I'll eliminate you. And if you die, I'll kill you again. The two continue to play around there. That being said, Sakamoto goes there, picks up some pearls, and keeps them. He then goes back to the car and grabs a shovel, a digging tool, and says, Even though I'm fat, I'm still afraid of feeling pain. While I'm digging, protect me. It's very funny. That said, he then starts poking the zombie and asks, This thing is dead, right? It's not going to move? He then plunges his shovel into the zombie's skull and retrieves its green energy pearl. The pearl. Sakamoto is then impressed and says, I never thought the human brain contained such a gem like a marble. This is valuable. And the protagonist once again argues with him, telling him to focus on his work. He-bin then starts digging again, and they find quite a few pearls. The protagonist asks how many he found, and he found quite a lot, even finding it fun to dig up the zombie skulls. He-bin then tells Sakamoto to fill up the tank quickly, and in the meantime, goes to check on Sakura. The girl is quite ill due to leukemia, and even worse than last time. He looks for the medicine, remembers he brought it with him, and gives her some water. Sakamoto even asks what happened to his sister, if it was just a case of thermal shock. The protagonist argues with him again, saying that he doesn't need to worry, just that he should drive as fast as possible. Quickly fill up the tank. Let's go. It's hot. She was in the car for quite a while. And the protagonist gets even angry, saying, Why did you lie saying you didn't have gas? So we wasted a lot of time. If anything happens to her, you'll suffer the consequences. The protagonist said, pointing a sword at Sakamoto. Sakamoto is quick to reassure. I'll drive properly. I won't cause any more trouble. They then drive off to the next town. Sakamoto even compliments the protagonist. Man, your sword technique is incredible. And the protagonist retorts, saying, Before asking other people's names, tell us yours first. Then Sakamoto says his name. My name is Sakamoto. The people in the city were all getting infected, forcing me to drive to escape. This car belongs to my friend. He left it at the mechanic for repairs, but didn't pick it up, so I just drove. The protagonist says his name is He-bin. Sakamoto stopped instantly, causing the protagonist to fall to the front of the car without a seatbelt. Hee-bin points his sword at Sakamoto, asking why he stopped again. But the road was on fire, and the market was blocked by flames. Sakura wakes up to the sound of the car stopping and looks out the window, asking how they're going to get to the market. The protagonist tries to calm her down, saying, "As you can see, the road to your father's market is blocked. It's going to be difficult to get to your father." Sakamoto even says, "If we change direction, we can get there, but it will take a long time. Should we go anyway?" The protagonist says, "Okay, but we need to find better weapons and equipment before we go there. Big guy, do you know if there are any electronics or gun shops around here?" Sakamoto then starts thinking and says yes. "I have a friend from my hometown. He's a blacksmith and has worked for many years. He's very experienced. As far as I remember, he was there, but with the virus, I don't know if he's still around. Even if he's gone, the things from the shop will still be there. There must be a lot of good stuff he left behind. This sword was made personally by him." The protagonist even thinks, "I've collected several good alloys so far. If the blacksmith shop has good materials, I can create a good weapon to fight the zombies, if the Sakamoto doesn't cause me any trouble." Sakamoto then says, "Speaking of my friend from my hometown, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. So many memories. We used to kill together when we were young to steal watermelons." And the protagonist is sleeping next to Sakura. They then cross the bridge, and Sakamoto remarks, "We've arrived. Even after all these years, nothing has changed. The tool shed." Hee-bin, in his usual bad mood, said, "A blacksmith shop, is that it? This doesn't look like a junkyard, it looks more like one." He continued, "Well, you'd better pray that this blacksmith is trustworthy. Otherwise, you can start thinking about where you want to be buried. But before we go in, we need to do a little cleaning, eliminate these zombies. Maybe your friend is one of them. It'll be the same thing. Then I'll cut them up, mess with their brains, and get the pearls for myself," the protagonist said, giving the order. Sakura wants to help, but she can't because she's quite ill. The protagonist even argues, "If you faint later or a zombie bites you, I won't be able to save you." Sakamoto tries to cheer her up, saying he'll get the pearls and she can hold them as a form of help. "With me protecting you, you won't need to worry," Sakamoto says. The protagonist warns, "If you get bitten, I won't hesitate to cut you open." He then begins to counterattack, eliminating the zombies in a brutal manner. Sakamoto starts talking to Sakura, and they seem like younger and older siblings. At that moment, we see someone on top of a building looking down through binoculars, spotting someone below. He begins to observe. Then someone arrives shouting, "Brother Moon, report! Brother Moon!" But at that moment, before he finishes speaking, the guy who was looking through the binoculars simply shoots him, and he falls hard to the ground as if he were nobody. Brother Moon even says, "That sociopath with a gun in his hand. Before entering, knock on the door because I don't know when it's a zombie." And he asks the newcomer, "What happened that he was going to tell me?" And he says, "Boss, we found some people killing zombies at the blacksmith shop across the street." Brother Moon replies, "I've already seen him. I still need you to find me. I remember him, especially that man. I've seen him before killing many zombies alone. He's very strong. Bring him to me." At that moment, in the department, he throws food as a reward to the rookie so he can eat while smoking a cigarette lit by his wife. He gives orders, telling them to accompany the protagonist and his companions who are down there eliminating zombies, because he will reward them. After finishing the cleaning, they go into the tool shop. The protagonist kicks the door open and enters the shop. He notices that the interior is warm, which means the owner was there recently. Sakamoto even says that the house didn't suffer any damage, but he doesn't know where his friend ended up. The protagonist says, "Great! Bring me all the pearls that were collected. Then, find an old engine, pipes, and some iron plates for me. Take this sword and sharpen it, and be ready to provide cover at any moment." Sakamoto is surprised because he thought they were only there to collect weapons. There are even several weapons hanging, but the protagonist examines the weapons and says, "After a week, these normal weapons will be useless. I need to make some stronger ones." Yes, he knows how to forge, but anyway, that doesn't matter. Tell Sakamoto to shut up and find the metals and everything else he needs. Hee-bin puts on his gloves. his first mechanical skill is forging. He then begins to forge those weapons into swords. Sakamoto is surprised, seeing that he actually knows how to forge. He asks him to put all those pearls there, and the pearls begin to melt, and it looks like a magical effect. That said, the protagonist puts some of his blood on those pearls, and it looks like he's even adding sauce. He then begins to forge and forges extremely powerful swords. That being said, the henchmen outside are watching the protagonist and his team in the blacksmith shop and asking, "What's going on? He can kill zombies like they're just vegetables. Why does Brother Luo want us to go there and die?" They're aiming for the reward because for everything they did for Brother Luo, their territory leader, they'll get them supply crates. They'll take advantage of the fact that He-bin has cleared out a good portion of the zombies and go after him. That said, Sakamoto remains surprised seeing the protagonist do many interesting things, and even asks, "What's this guy's profession? Did he graduate from Harvard? This sword looks like it has an electrical pattern. How incredible!" And the sword the protagonist forged truly is incredible. The protagonist then says that all the materials are ready and they begin to eat. The table is set and Sakura goes to call them to eat, but at that moment, one of Brother Moon's henchmen comes up behind Sakura and grabs her, putting a cloth over her face so she can't scream. In fact, the protagonist continues forging the swords, which are extremely powerful, somewhat mechanical swords. He then goes to a stage to activate them. Yes, he then takes 2 energy catalysts used in mechanics and activates the electricity in the sword. According to the order, complete. The protagonist then hears Sakura's voice and goes outside. His henchmen have grabbed her, have her on their shoulders, and are threatening to eliminate her if the protagonist approaches. That being said, the protagonist doesn't approach, but instead launches a long-range attack, directing the energy from his sword to strike the henchman. At that moment, the henchman tries to escape. And as he tries to flee, the protagonist doesn't let it go unpunished and unleashes an electric energy attack on the one carrying his friend Sakura. The protagonist then begins to advance and starts eliminating those henchmen. They try to run and then they start talking, saying that if they let the girl go, the protagonist might spare them. But Brother Moon won't spare her. They're left in this dilemma. They'll use her as a hostage, but there's no way around it. And then, just as they were about to reach the girl, Sakamoto yells to the protagonist, saying that the zombies are after them, and it seems they've been injected with some stimulants making them faster. "What are we going to do now?" But the protagonist eliminates the zombies with a single blow, and Sakamoto even says, "That's too magical. It's beyond my comprehension. But what kind of weapon is that anyway?" Well, the kidnappers end up escaping, but the protagonist goes after them, and the protagonist yells at Sakamoto, ordering him to chase after him in a car. Sakamoto even says, "Let me save the princess." We then see that they entered the building, and Sakamoto confirms this is their base. He needs to inform the protagonist He-bin, now, and they used a bus to block the entrance. Sakamoto then tries to drive away in the car, but the henchmen, the kidnappers, look through the window and say, "The fat guy came alone, so it'll be easier to deal with them. Your car isn't bad. Thanks for bringing it here." One kidnapper threatens, "If you don't want to become a barbecue skewer, hand everything over and get out of here." Sakamoto tries to counter this by appealing to fear. "Don't think I'm afraid of you. I'm not as weak as you think." The henchmen then advance, saying, "I've killed more chickens than you've ever eaten. You want to get eliminated?" At that moment, as they advance towards Sakamoto, the protagonist launches a long-range strike with his electric sword, causing the henchmen to become extremely frightened. The henchmen were hiding behind barrels. At that moment, one of them even throws a dagger, thinking it will hit the protagonist. The henchman, who is a born assassin, is surprised because the protagonist strikes with the dagger and immediately launches another electric strike that eliminates one of those kidnappers instantly. That said, the henchman resorts to fire, but the sword blocks the fire attack as well. But at that moment, we see that Brother Moon, the leader of that territory, is holding a gun and threatening them from above, even saying, "You did very well. I watched everything. Even in these disasters, there's someone as competent as you here. I'm shocked. How about joining me for a drink?" Brother Moon continues, I treat people honestly, especially talented people like you. If you have any requests, I promise I can fulfill them. The protagonist doesn't pay much attention to their conversation and tries to strike, attempts to attack with his electricity sword, but Brother Moon points the weapon at Sakura, saying, I'm with your little sister, believing she is the protagonist's sister, and says, Stay, don't attack, or she will suffer the consequences. We are treating you courteously, so don't disappoint our good intentions. I know your sword is strong, it could even blow us up, but do you want to test which is faster, your sword or my weapon? The protagonist then begins to say interesting things. Great. My research is a huge project. I was worried that no one could help me. If you gather everyone together and let me give the orders, I'll entertain you. They then reach an agreement, and Brother Moon says, Great. I knew you weren't one to hold grudges. We'll give you a grand welcome. Sakamoto even says, Brother Hebin, what do you think you're doing? Have you completely lost your mind? How are we going to deal with all of them? They have weapons. And the protagonist even tells him to get lost, saying that if he doesn't want to, he can stay behind. Sakamoto even says that he won't interfere and lets him go alone. Hebin then enters the territory, which is full of heavily armed men, with Brother Moon sitting in the center of them, showing that he is the leader of them all. Brother Moon says that he has plenty of helpers. All the boys within a 15-kilometer radius are gathered here. I am your leader, Lu Chaoyang. The protagonist states his name. I am called Hebin. And Brother Moon asks, Do you know how these disasters happened? Hebin, obviously in his thoughts, said, Lu Chaoyang, I remember you from my past life. That said, they begin to have a serious conversation. So you're saying you know me? Brother Lu Chaoyang said, and you think I know the reason for the zombie outbreak? The protagonist says, Yeah, it seems you felt challenged. Since you realized the zombie virus was spreading and started preparing in advance, it seems you now want to establish your abyssal dragon gang. Having said that, Luo Chaoyang is surprised. Abyssal dragon gang? I've only told a few people about that. How do you know that? I'm becoming more and more interested in you. Hebin replies, It seems you're more interested in this, right? And shows the orange pearl he pulls from the zombies' skulls. And then Luo Chaoyang says, Brother, if you really know me well, then let's get straight to the point. Tell me everything you know. Zombies. Regarding the zombie virus, you must know that there are a few theories, right? The first is that research conducted abroad on viruses went wrong, causing it to spread around the world through insects and birds. The second is that it was nuclear weapons, nothing more ruthless and convenient than making your enemies kill each other. But it turns out that this fire can't stop burning. The third is even more ridiculous, an alien invasion. Another is about how a meteor, like a zombie virus, hit the Earth and caused the virus to spread through the atmosphere, entering the human body and turning people into zombies. He continues, You must have heard some of these stories before, haven't you? And that's why you brought your gang back abroad. You're right, Luo Chaoyang said. Indeed, I know a little secret about these zombie viruses, but even after reflecting for a while, I still don't understand the purpose of those pearls on a zombie's head, Luo Chaoyang continued. Your sword and your grand project must have something to do with it, right? Can you explain to me in detail what those pearls are for? Hebin agrees. Okay, but I need you to help me prepare a few things. No problem, Luo Chaoyang said to our protagonist, and the two reached an agreement. Luo Chaoyang demands, You'll have to let me see your sword first. Luo Chaoyang threatens again, saying he had almost forgotten his sister was there. One of his henchmen grabs the sword, and he can barely lift it because it's extremely heavy. He can't even stand up. The protagonist then begins to speak. This apocalypse was created by a zombie virus. As soon as a human is infected with this virus, the brain begins to form these pearls. This pearl is called energetic black metal, which accumulates energy over time as a person becomes a zombie. This black metal has a high adaptability to the body and metallic attributes. Thus, you can use them to make powerful weapons. You mean this black metal adapts to the body and metallic attributes? Luo Chaoyang asked, surprised. Don't tell me this is some kind of pearl. How will you become a deity? He said. But the protagonist stated, Indeed, some have tried to eat her, Luo Chaoyang, but most turned into zombies. Most of them? And what about the rest? What did they become? He asks. I'd like to know. Hebin replies, First, everyone should take a look here. I'll only show it once, so pay attention. First step, activate. And at that moment, he activated it, bringing the two metals together, the negative and the positive points, and he turned off all the lights in the house. And Luo Chaoyang was surprised. Don't tell me that this black metal energy can cause an electromagnetic pulse. And yes, when the light went out, they were both surprised. The protagonist had already grabbed his sword and, in the blink of an eye, attacked Luo Chaoyang, causing him to suddenly shoot at the protagonist. But he hit his henchman instead. But the protagonist shows no mercy and says, The Abyssal Dragon Gang, Luo Chaoyang, you will die here! And he cuts Luo Chaoyang in half. And the protagonist even says, presumably in his thoughts, After learning about the uses of black metal, you ordered your entire gang to develop all kinds of black metal weapons, dominating areas and creating your own army. Within your sphere of power, violence, slavery, massacres, no sin is left out. Before you grow up, I need to annihilate everyone here until there's no one left. And the protagonist begins to eliminate them one by one with his electromagnetic energy sword. He continues, in his thoughts or speaking to Sakura, I may have committed the massacre, but I couldn't bear for you all to witness it. And the protagonist touches Sakura's face, who is now his little sister, and says, I want you to know that the apocalypse is cruel and merciless, but I don't want you to get involved in it. At that moment, someone knocks on the door, and the protagonist is about to attack with his sword, but it's our beloved Sakamoto. Yes, it's over. And the protagonist even speaks, using Luo Chaoyang's weapon. I achieved the goal I came here for. Now let's go. Hebin eliminated Luo Chaoyang and his gang, rescued Sakura, and accomplished the objective of his research. They now have a new driver, a fueled car, and upgraded weapons. What will be the next script block? Sakamoto's reaction. Sakamoto enters the base, witnesses the massacre, and reacts to Hebin's brutality. The next destination, they leave Luo Chaoyang's base and head to Sakura's father's supermarket, Sakura's Health. Hebin administers Sakura's medicine and uses his knowledge to treat her condition. If you've made it this far, it's because the sequel has hooked you. Don't miss the next chapter of this electrifying saga. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like so you don't miss anything.